Before I get into the weekly video, I want to do a quick sort of, I guess you call it an editorial or something, before we do it. But stick around. I think you're going to find it pretty interesting and funny. Over the weekend, last weekend, one of our Patreon subscribers emailed me an article that appeared in Yahoo News. And I thought it was from the Babylon Bee. I thought it was a joke article when I first read it, or from the Onion, or one of the satire sites out there. It was like something you'd see in Mad Magazine, but it's a true story. And it's going on in the UK, and it's being paid for by the British government as part of a woman's doctoral dissertation. And she's apparently an alleged sculptress and mixed media artist. I Googled her on the internet. I couldn't find anything about her other than she's gaining some notoriety for doing this paper in her thesis. And she's a student at the University of Westminster's Center for Social Justice Research. So you know where this is going. But she's managed to bamboozle them into giving her roughly $21,000 a year in U.S. currency since 2021 to write her thesis. And her thesis is going to be titled Crafting Counter-Hegemony Using Porcelain to Interrogate Constructed Ideologies of Whiteness and Empire. Yep, that's the title. And what Miss Burgher is attempting to do is sort of weave together this very convoluted argument that white porcelain, not other porcelain, but white porcelain is a symbol of British, in particular, UK racism and colonialism, and that it is a metaphor for the fragility of whiteness. Because apparently porcelain and other colors isn't fragile. I don't know. The woman is clearly uneducated, frankly. She doesn't know, evidently, that China was never colonized. Chinese porcelain and the history of porcelain was never a colonial product at all. It was a purchase product conducted in trade for which the Chinese were paid handsomely. The East India Company and the French and other countries spent fortunes in China buying porcelain from them, and the Chinese were more than happy to produce it and sell it to them, and the emperor was fine with it. Come on in, buy some stuff. All right, but at any rate, according to her, it's all a symbol of racism, and that she is doing it not only as a historical thing to illustrate the horrors of colonialism, but also as a sort of a metaphor that the perception of the beauty of white porcelain is somehow an affirmation of, in the minds of the people who appreciate it, an affirmation that whiteness is inherently on its own racist, and that apparently she didn't have anything to say about Hanan wares and other glazes that were used, that of dark brown glazes and red glazes and underglazed blue glazes and celadons and all that aren't in the picture. It's just the white stuff. So at any rate, it's on its face a ridiculous waste of money. And I think what it really is I think it's just an attempt by the artist to give herself some notoriety, because, as I said, she's an artist that nobody's ever heard of. And I think she's hoping this will give her some notoriety. And of course, it's a hot button issue, so she'll probably get some nice exhibition space. The media will cover it because it is controversial to some degree. And if you fake it until you make it. So apparently, she's going to try to build an art career by putting herself on the tip of the spear of social justice in the UK that she feels is so racist. And of course, if you know anything about Britain and the UK, it's one of the most inclusive cultures in the world, and has been for quite a long time, and that the argument just falls flat. Her argument is specious and ridiculous, but that's her argument, and she's sticking to it. And I'll link the article to the Yahoo News story down below here. So after you watch the weekly update, you can go read it for yourself. I Googled around and tried to find out as much as I could about her, and there wasn't much on her out there other than she's getting, as I said, she's getting some notoriety for doing this, but apparently not much for her artwork. But so there you are. Any rate, it's just one of those funny things, and I'm only mentioning it because I can't stand it when people use something like this as an excuse to pontificate on a subject that has nothing to do with anything. It's just absolutely convoluted thinking. But it's the world, as I said many times in the videos, it's the world we live in. It's gone crazy, and this is just another aspect of it. So now we're on to the regular weekly video. So here we are, and it is, I didn't say at the beginning, it's Friday, May 31st, 2024. We're heading into June, starting tomorrow. Summer's here. It's a beautiful day here in Gloucester, by the way. It's about 75 degrees. The sun is out. It's dry. The new dog, Buck, has been swimming pretty much every day in the ocean when he goes for his walks in the morning and the afternoon. And things are going along just fine. Now, a couple of things that are coming up. One of them is the sale at Agoots. I don't know if you've been following it. Agoots has got a sale coming up over in France on the 5th. They've got a number of nice things in the auction. If you're over there, you might want to check it out. Tajan has a sale coming up as well. Sotheby's has a sale. There's a lot going on in Paris in the next 10 days. And this one is the one that's happening first. And they've got some nice things, and not terribly expensive. Things that are buyable, things that are sort of in the purchase range of the average collector. You don't have to be you don't have to be a billionaire to shop. And one of them is this. It's a very nice pair of Beijing enamel hat stands. These are very nice in yellow ground. They look to be in pretty good shape. From what I'm seeing, made during the second half of the 19th century. From what I can tell from the pictures, they look quite good. The estimates are reasonable. The estimate is 1,800 to 2,000 euros. So you're talking about $1,000, which $1,000 for each one, which is fine. That's not an outrageous ask. And you may find that there's not much of a reserve on them. This is the kind of sale you want to go through and just leave some bids. But talk to them about shipping and things from over there if you're outside of France, because shipping from France can be a little bit expensive. Okay, but there's a lot of stuff in this sale. And a lot of nice export wares. There's a good section of blue and white wares. There's lots of Wan Li pieces and so forth. You have all of these examples here. There's pages of them, and they have a catalog online like all the other auction houses and so on. And it's going to be conducted through Drouot Live. So you can check it there, but talk to them about shipping. Increasingly, some of the auction houses in France, in particular, are taking on shipping. Something I've harped on many times, and so they're starting to do it. And then over to this. This is a nice little wooden stand. It's not terribly big. It looks like a table, but it's really only 12 by 30 by 10 centimeters. So it's about a foot long. That's only about a foot in length. But it's a wonderful stand, beautifully carved. There's a nice detail, good patina. It's a 19th century piece, obviously, but very nicely done. And the estimate is really reasonable. I think it was, 400 to 600 euros. That's something worth going after, especially if you're looking for a nice display stand to put a few pieces on that you may want to put up in a room somewhere in your house. The other thing that's on here, there's some good silks, and their estimates on silks are extremely reasonable. This one is estimated at 3,000 to 4,000 euros. And if you've been following silk prices, you know that this type of dragon robe typically sells for somewhere in the $5,000 to $7,000 range on average. So 3,000 to 4,000 euros is perfectly reasonable for it. All right, so do check that out. The next thing is this. This is this is a Chonzen or a transitional period mug that they've gotten in the sale, and it's quite nice. And it's about, I forget how tall it is. It's about 8 inches tall, 9 inches tall, but it's elongated and cylindrical in shape. I think it's very attractive. And it's estimated at 2,000 to 3,000 euros, which for something from that period, I don't think is at all unreasonable. It measures 19 centimeters in height, so it's just a hair under 8 inches. But it's unusual proportions. Nice, long, tall body. Good stout handle on it. And as always, you want to get condition reports. Make sure things like the handles on this haven't been replaced or something like that, and it's okay. And then you have things like this Jin Dynasty rib jar. This is a pretty nice looking piece. It looks very clean, and the finish work on it looks excellent. I think the estimate is awfully low. I'm not quite sure why. The estimate is 6,000 to 8,000 euros, and we've seen very similar examples to this ribbed piece. They sell often for, and it's glazed internally, sell for 12 to 18,000, 12 to 15,000. Some of them sell for 20. So 6,000 to 8,000 euros for this, I think, is certainly within the realm of being buyable. this is something I've noticed about Agoots and a couple of these French auction houses. They don't go overboard with their estimates too much. They want you to participate, and I think this is one of the ways they're doing it, which is very wise. But this nicely glazed Hanan glazed piece, probably from they're dating it to the Jin dynasty, which is probably about right. But good looking. And then down the road in Paris at Sotheby's, the Arts d'Asia sale, they've got a bunch of good things. And this sale is on the 14th, so you've got about 2 weeks before the sale. There is a lot of Sung ware. There are a lot of Sung pieces in here, a lot of early Celadons, not a lot of blue and white. There's some, but not a lot of enamel pieces, but a lot of early pieces, a nice piece of Ferroir, some Jun purple glazed, purple splash bowls and things like that, and so forth. And we're going to take a look at a few pieces that caught my eye. One of them was this vase. Kangxi period, I love the shape of this vase. I think this vase has an absolutely terrific shape, and I think the glaze is fantastic on it. I really do. I think this is a very, very, very good piece of porcelain. And the estimate is very reasonable, 3,000 to 5,000 euros. I'm a bit confused as to why the estimate is so low. This vase measures 17 inches tall. There's a picture of the bottom of it. Get a condition report on it. There might be a little bit of a repair around the rim, which pushed the estimate down. But boy, this is a very, very pretty piece. The red on this is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, the way it flows down, and the shape of the vase is excellent. The potting on this vase, the proportions, the scale, the way the foot is done, the body, and the nice neck, very, very attractive. 3,000 to 5,000 euro estimate. I think to me it looks way under the money, but we'll see. I'll go back and look, and we'll talk about the prices after the sale, because I'm curious to see how the French market's doing these days, because they don't do a lot of Asian sales there like they do in New York and Hong Kong and London, obviously, but they do get some good ones. And you'll see things in French auctions. It's a taste difference. There's a very big difference often with things that come out of French collections versus things that come out of English collections. They seem to have a different flavor to them, and they're often many of the pieces, the same periods and all that sort of thing. But the styles, what's appreciated in France is different than what's appreciated in the UK. It seems that way to me, historically anyway. And then there's this very nice Femi-Vert Kangxi vase with sort of a flared foot and butterflies and people on it. Nice looking piece of porcelain. Looks like it's in good shape. It's pretty good size. It's 18 inches in height. That's sort of on the big size. And it's got a strong estimate, but not a crazy estimate. 40 to 60,000 euros, but very attractive. We'll see how that does. But I liked it a lot. And then this is maybe my favorite piece in the sale. Is this Kangxi period Dewa vase with a porcelain base on it. This is very unusual. You don't see these. I've seen them a few times, but you don't see them often, where they have a porcelain Dewa base that detaches. And the piece measures, it's pretty good size, measures 19 inches in height. And the decoration, the groundwork is excellent. Just excellent all the way up. Again, get a condition report, but it's got this very unusual fitted base in porcelain. There's a picture of it off the piece. There it is. Really, really unusual. It's estimated at 15 to 25,000 euros, but it's very big. It's Kangxi, and it's got a footed base, which makes it, I think, a very rare bird. There it is. Very, very nicely done. And the way they did the base is sort of interesting, because it sort of splays out at the bottom as though the weight of the vase is sort of pushing the base out. It reminds me of Bombay chests, how they would bulge the sides to make it look like, a stout, massive piece. And here they have the foot rim sort of bulging out a little bit underneath the weight of the vase. But it's a big vase, almost 19 inches. That's big for Dewa. That's a big piece of Blanc de Chine. And then this is a splendid piece of transitional wear sleeve vase. The color is outstanding with the Kirin in the middle and the Phoenix overhead. But notice the color of the cobalt. The cobalt is a beautiful, dark, rich sapphire blue. And you don't always see that on transitional wares in this tone. This is more like what you'd expect to see on a Kangxi piece, made a little bit later. But beautiful quality all the way up the piece. So you might want to take a look at that. The estimate is 50 to 70,000 euros, which is in line with what some other similar examples have brought. You may recall a few months ago there was a sale with a bunch of transitional wares in it, and they have transitional wares in the last 5 or 6 years have really done well at auction. And of course, a lot of this, we've said it many times, goes to the popularity of these porcelains that were created by Mr. Butler and his amazing collection in the UK. And if you don't have that book, The Dragon's Gate, on transitional wares and Chongzhen wares and all that, get it. It is a great book. It's one of the best Chinese art porcelain books published in the last 10 years by far. Certainly in the top 2 or 3. Great book. But this is a wonderful example. If you've been looking for an amazing piece of Chongzhen transitional wares, this sort of thing, this is it. Just beautifully done. Absolutely beautifully done. All the way up. Wonderful color. Great color. God. And then over to this, a very nice Hong painting. Is in this sale. And this is a nice, probably 1820s or so example. And in it, there are all the different flags in front of the Hongs. There's the American flag and the Swedish flags and all that. But I love how there are no foreign boats. It's all junks, all trading vessels coming in. And if you've read books about the Hongs, this is what it looked like a lot of the time. All the books and the diaries and things that were kept, that were written, I've read a whole bunch of them in the last few years, just out of curiosity about what life was like here. And they always talked about the hundreds of boats, the small boats, the Chinese boats, coming and going and trading and bringing goods in and so forth around this port. It was a very, very busy place. And but what is striking about this, there are no foreign ships, because most often they show the foreign ships, all the different foreign trading ships, and in this one there's none of them. They're just sampans and junks. And I think this is a very interesting painting. The estimate is very reasonable, 3,000 to 4,000 euros. Let's see. They're just dating it as 19th century. It is 10 by 16 inches, so it's not terribly big. It is framed and ready to go. There it is. It's a nice looking painting. Beautiful painting. And I think very reasonable. Very, very reasonably estimated. It should bring more than that. It should bring 8,000 to 10,000, but we'll see. We'll see. You don't know. And then this. Those of you that like later Ming bronzes may recognize this particular type of bronze. They do appear in a number of books. There's one very similar to it, I think, in the British Museum that was in Rose Kerr's book, Later Chinese Bronzes. And here you have the gilded deer, or I guess it's a deer, with holding a disc on its back. Beautifully done, though. Nice Ming example, nice Ming bronze. And it's estimated, it's got a decent estimate, 15 to 20,000 euros, but it's one of those iconic bronzes, one of these bronzes that you see in institutions and occasionally you see maybe in a really, really good private collection, but they don't turn up very often at auction. These do not turn up often, and if you look around, you won't see them very much. And it's pretty good size. It's 9 inches tall. It's pretty good size, a little under 10 inches in height. So it's not a small thing. It's not 2 or 3 inches tall. It's 9 inches tall, so it's about that big. It's a good-looking bronze, 15 to 20,000 euros. And then these I thought were striking, the Yongzheng period dishes, and I love the rims on them with this orange tone. It's one of my. I love that color. We have a staircase that color in our house actually, and it's based on it. It's the tone of like Ming lacquerware. But there's one of the plates, and you'll notice on this plate, it's got a strong estimate. But look at the condition. The condition of these two plates looks quite exceptional, and the decoration is quite unusual. The Yongzheng period, beautifully done, estimated at 5,000 to 7,000 euros. But condition and pattern and visual appeal, the colors are so good on this. I really like it. The Court Lady. All right. Now, the other thing that's going on is the Tajan sale here. Now, Tajan's has got some good things in it. I looked at their jades. A lot of them are suspicious. As far as age goes. A lot of them look later, and there's some other pieces in here that look later, but there's a couple of dandy pieces in this sale. You can see there's lots of Famille Rose and so forth in the auction. There's several pages here, and you can check it out. This is it to John, and the sale is going to take place on the 10th of June. So the Agut sale on the 5th, Sotheby's on the 14th, and Agut's on the 10th. All right? And these are some of the pieces. And this is one of the pieces that caught my eye. Unfortunately, Tajan is really stingy on pictures. I don't know why. It's dumb. If you are an online auctioneer, if anybody at Tajan is watching this, if you've got the vase on the photo table, tip it and show the bottom of it. Show the vase. There was a report that came out a couple of weeks ago. They said that last year, 70% of Christie's, for example, online total bids came through the internet. 70%. Which is interesting because they had that sale while their website was down a few days last week, and the auction looked like it did absolutely fine without internet bids. So maybe it's a dependency they don't need. But at any rate, this is a beautiful looking vase. And it looks like they're dating it. I think they dated it as 19th century, I think. 19th century. But it's got some aspects to it that look like it could be 18th century. And it's very big, though. It's 29 inches in height. This is a big, big, big vase with a very, very low estimate, even for 19th century. Even if this is, maybe during the Jiajing or Daoguan period. I don't think it's it doesn't look like this glaze and the color and the quality of the work. It does not look like a later vase. But I'd love to see the bottom of it. But beautifully done with these archaistic bandings around it. Love the creatures on the neck, and it's big. This is a very, very appealing porcelain, and it only has a 2,000 to 4,000 euro estimate. Again, very reasonable. Expect it if it's Daoguan or earlier down to the beginning of Jiajing. Expect it to bring more. I'm assuming it's not marked because they don't mention a mark anywhere on here. They're just saying Qing Dynasty. But I would definitely ask for photographs of the bottom of it. You want to see the foot rim, see the color and the shape and how it's trimmed and so forth. But beautiful example. That's one of my favorite things. That's actually of all the sales I've just talked about. I think this is particularly attractive. I'd like to know more, and I don't know why for the life of me these auction houses. They have the piece out, they have the camera guy there, and all they'd have to do is just lay this thing down and shoot the bottom of it and upload it, and they're done. Because they're going to spend a lot of time shipping out images of this vase, of all these pieces to people if you only put up one. And the other things that caught my eye was this. Now, these are our 19th century. These are very big. They're 20 inches tall and really unusual food lions. Very unusual coloring, very unusual in a lot of ways, and not the least of which is that you'll notice that there's no difference between the male and the female. Normally, you see these food lions, and the mother will have her paw resting on the cub, and the dad will have his paw resting on a ball. And in this one, they're the same. They're just mirrored. And but the enameling, the light blue enameling, the butterflies, these look like they were probably done during the second half of the 19th century or so. I think they're terrific, and I love the expression on the faces. They're very exuberant, and the estimate is pretty reasonable, 4,000 to 6,000 euros. But keep in mind these are 20 inches tall. They're big pieces, mantel pieces. And the bases are nicely done. One of them has a little repair to it there on the corner that I can see. You want to get a condition report on all of it, but those are the two pieces I like the best in the Tajan sale. So check it out. Look into it. All right, now over to what was going on eBay last week. There's not a lot going on Live Auctioneers and over there right now. There are a number of sales up. We updated it a couple of times this week, so do check it out either through your Patreon account or through the global member pages. There are some good sales coming up. Casco Bay just listed a sale this week, and so forth. So there are some nice sales coming up. And I noticed that the Bruneau sale, I think, finished up yesterday. They looked like they had very good results. They had a jade that did very well. It was that yellow jade that was on the global pages that did really, really well. So you want to look at those. There are some new auctions on there. There are a bunch of sales coming off, though, around the 4th, 5th, and 6th, so that are on there right now. I noticed there are a whole bunch of them. Getting back to that, the blue and white Kangxi piece that we talked about last week, the suspect one, the fake. I checked it to see how it's doing as far as interest, and so far it's got 3 people watching it. So I guess the cat's out of the bag on those things. All right, now this sold on eBay last week. This was a nice tea box. I talked about it. Had this nice arched bridge handle, a sake pot. with the octopus legs scrolls on the top. And this just illustrates just how lopsided the market is right now. This is not Chinese, obviously. It's Japanese, but it's beautifully done. Probably made around 1820 to 1850, somewhere in there. It looked to be in wonderful condition, and it went for just 100 pounds, 127 US, plus shipping. Very, very reasonable. Nice looking. This was from Migolari. This is a wonderful value. It's a beautiful piece of porcelain and very, very reasonably priced. And then you come over to this. This was that blue to hue, and I have no idea what happened to this. I don't know why this brought so little. This was a nice late 19th century blue to hue for the Vietnamese market bowl with inscriptions on the back. There's a picture of the bottom of it. It looks fine for late 19th century. And it only sold for $190. That is pretty shocking. That's pretty shocking. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it just slipped through the cracks. But again, this gets back to why I always say, leave a bid. Carpet bomb things with bids. This was a nice bowl. We've seen these in the past, and they bring $600, $700, $800. This time around, about $190. Why? I think it was probably just a fluke. But flukes happen, especially in online auctions. And I've heard from a number of people in the last week who have done the strategy of just leaving bids. And one guy wrote me, he got something amazing for under $100. And the auction house is on Live Auctioneers, and it happens. It does happen. All right, now over to this. This is the next one. This is that very attractive, probably the 17th or early 18th century bowl. Brought $2,293 with the horse on it. There's this. It's a nice looking piece of porcelain, and it looked fine to me. There's the foot rim. I think that foot is more likely an 18th century one than 17th century. That's just my view of it. And it didn't really bring a 17th century price. It really brought more of an 18th century price, $2,293. But nonetheless, a nice piece of porcelain. Good looking thing. And this was from Nafisa. Over in the UK. He's a seller over there. And then there was this. And this was a piece that was actually the seller, before he listed it, he wanted me to look at it. He felt good about it, but I think he just wanted to know my thoughts on it. And I told him, I said, it's a very nice Republican. I think he was on the fence whether it was Guangzhou or Republican. I think this was pretty clearly a Republican piece to me, but spectacular quality. This had wonderful quality. The decoration on here was very, very good. The shading of the enamels was excellent. The facial expressions of the boys was very subtly done. And then you had this wonderful coloring on the neck of the vase here with this yellow and orange archaistic shaded, the way they shaded the orange tones on the neck of it here. Very, very attractive. And then they put a light blue band around the top. I thought that was overall a very, very attractive package. And it brought a good price, $1,337, but you didn't overpay for it. This was a nice piece of Republican ware with a Guangzhou mark on it. So good on, if one of you bought it, bravo. Oh, I heard from one of you this week. I found that one of you bought a number of the paintings at the Leland sale down, the ones that we had talked about so much. And one particular viewer here bought both of them, bought both lots of the better Chinese paintings in that sale. Nice looking thing. If you buy something at an auction, if they ask you how you heard about the auction, tell them you saw it here. Because what's been happening is, I'm going to just mention something, and I haven't said yes or no, but I've always said no before. But lately, I've had inquiries from a number of pretty good auction houses, good, not junky ones, but good ones, that want advertising space on the bid amount site or in videos, have some sort of like a paid promotion thing. And I've always been very hesitant on a lot of that. At the beginning, when I first started doing videos, I thought about that would be a way to make it help pay for itself. And then I decided not to bother doing that. But I've had a number of people lately get a hold of me wanting to know if they could pay for ad space. And these are significant auction house, very significant auction house, one of them. And they want to know if there's any way they can advertise with us. And I'm hesitant. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that down below, because I sort of view it as it could be a conflict of interest for me, because sometimes when I say things about auctions, and but unless I can get them to know that if I think they're putting up and selling fakes, I'm going to say they're selling fakes even though they're paying for the ad, because I will do that. but I don't know if people want to pay. They want to pay with that left open. Often, if they pay you for advertising, they don't expect any criticism, and that's not what I do. As many of you know, if I see something that I don't like, I'll say it. But at any rate, share your thoughts. All right, now what's coming up on eBay? Over here, there we go. This is some of the stuff that's going to close this week. Chamberlain Antiques, Juice. It used to be Juice 1499. It looks like he finally got to change his seller name on here. Now it's just Chamberlain. Is this very nice? It's sort of this looks like a. He's just calling it a container. It looks like an incense stick holder done in nephrite jade with a very nice carnelian sort of rooster on top. This looks like it must have been modified and given a silver liner once it came to the West. But it's a very nice thing. It closes in 3 days. Closes on Monday. It's up to $127. Expected to get up to $1,400 to $2,000. But it's a nice looking package. It's a good looking thing, and the jade carving on it looks quite good. It's nice. I don't think it's 18th century, but I certainly think it's the 19th century, and very nice quality jade. I like the figure here with the hat on, and I like the way it's polished and done. And there's a little fish down here and so forth. So do check that out. And then over to this. This is a funny thing. This thing is a very nice, and it's big. It's 19 inches, is it? Something like that. It's pretty good. 17 inches. 17 3/4 inches. This nice celadon with white slip of flowers in relief, bottle form. Very attractive. And it is a 19th century pot. Here it is, the bottom of it right there. Early 19th century. Beautifully finished. And it's only up to $10. It closes in 3 days. I'm assuming there must be a lot of people watching it who are just waiting to pull the trigger. But this should bring $1,500 to $2,500, somewhere in there. It's an awful nice looking piece of ceramic. I don't see any damage to it, and it's definitely old and it hasn't been cut down in height. So I'm a bit confused why this isn't doing better, unless people are just holding back and going to hit it at the end, which may also happen. Or maybe they're distracted by the sales over in France right now. But this is a nice piece of celadon. And then he also has this up. These are wonderful. A pair of Kutani hawks, or I don't know if these Kutani are just birds. I don't know if they're hawks or no. The tails are too long. I don't know what those are. Some sort of songbird. Very pretty though, and Kutani, and quite unusual. I think these are very, very nice, and they're only up to $128. They close on Monday, and they measure 12 inches tall, so a foot tall each, so they're good size. They're nice presentation size. They look great up on a mantle or on a bookcase or something like that. They'd be beautiful, beautiful. They almost look like European Majolica. They're awfully nice. And then over to this. This is a guy, Low Cost Fun. I don't know who he is. He's over in the UK. And he has a bunch of pith paintings up. And one of them is this one. There's another one of the Hongs. And this is an unusual subject matter for pith paintings. You don't often see port scenes and so forth at the mouth of the river of China. And this is quite interesting. I think it's a very, very nice scene. And right now it's up to just $113. It ends in 3 days. It should do pretty well. It should jump up to $400 or $500, I would think, at the end. What does it say? One person has this in their cart. One other person has this in their... How could they have it in their cart? eBay has been changing their site again. I think they've been monkeying around with it because obviously nobody... Maybe has this on their watch list. I don't know what that means. But regardless, this particular seller has a number of nice pith paintings up. If you like pith work and you like mid-19th century to so forth, second or third quarter of the 19th century watercolors of China, this is a good painting to look into. And then there's this. I'm not crazy about the way the guy shot his photographs because he sort of tipped it. But this is one of these celadon ground copper red decorated. This green area here was probably copper decorated. It just turned green in the firing. It misfired a little bit, and it causes these striations in the body. But this is a 19th century bottle vase, sort of a Mei Ping form. It ends tomorrow. It's only up to about $30. It should bring. How big is this? Sang de Bouffe, it is probably, 9 inches tall or something? It's only 5 inches tall. It's a little one. It's a tiny one. This should do pretty well at the end. We all talked about these before. These miniature pieces, these small pieces, can do very, very well. It should bring 300 or 400, but we'll see. Maybe somebody will get this for $100. That would be a bargain. And then over to this, I love this. This was a wonderful little bamboo carving. This was Stubbsy Wubsy found this. God, he finds nice things. Nice patina. The color of the wood on this is excellent. The carving is very, very good. It looks to be in quite nice condition all the way down. It's up to $261. It closes on Sunday, but this is a good piece. There you get a sense of its size with his hand. There's a sword on his back and so forth. Very, very nice. How tall is this? 28 centimeters. So it's just a little under a foot tall. It's 11 inches tall. It's good size. And this should pop up to 500 to 700 by the time it's over. I think it's a very, very nice example. Very, very nice. And then over to this, the rondelle. It's up to $1,499. It's being sold by a seller up in British Columbia. And as we mentioned last week, you may remember this, it's all framed, ready to hang up. These dragon rondelles have done awfully well in the last few months. There was that one that sold at Drew Eats last week that went for about $8,000. This one's up to $1,400. I suspect this will go up another $600 or $800 by the time it closes, or $500 or so, because the colors aren't quite as vibrant as the other, but it's still a nice, very nice hangable example, and so forth. And not everybody can spend $8,000 on a silk roundel, but you can afford a couple. So there's an example that you could probably get into. All right. So that's sort of the list of what's going on. As I mentioned earlier, there's not a lot happening on Live Auctioneers right now, other than the sales that have been up for a while that are closing over in Europe. The Brno sale closed, and there wasn't much else going on in the U.S. last week, as far as I can think. So we'll talk more about the sales that are ending this week next week in the video, and that about covers it. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet here on YouTube, please do. If you haven't joined us on Patreon, we're always fun to see new people join up over there. We posted a bunch of little articles and stories over there this week, and an extra video to do with the Sotheby's commission cut. The big commission cut, and I'm going to talk about that more probably next week, because I'm doing a little homework on what's going on in the commission world. And while I was doing it, I also came across a reminder of the old Sotheby's Christie scandal when they got jammed up around 23 years ago. The chairman of Sotheby's went to jail. The president of Sotheby's ended up on an ankle bracelet. It was a big scandal over commission fixing. And I have to imagine that when Sotheby's cut their commission rates, the other auction houses probably wanted to follow suit, but they're going to be very, very careful so they won't get dragged back into that mess again. It embarrassed both companies terribly. It was a mistake, but it's an interesting story. It's a really interesting story, and if you'd like to hear it, you want me to do a video on the scandal, I can do it, because I have a lot of the information. I kept a lot of the information back in the day when it happened, because I was so amazed by what was going on. So let me know if you'd like to see that video, and I can put that together pretty quickly. All right, so that's it for the week. Leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye-bye. See you next time.